Hey, welcome to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset Podcast, powered by the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship. I am Mark McNees, your host. And in studio today, we have Bennett Napier of Partners and Association Management. Hey, Bennett, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, sir. Mark, it's great. It's an honor to be here. So I look forward to the conversation today.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about your company?
Yeah, Partners in Association Management, it's kind of defined as what's called an association management company. And our client base are not-for-profit organizations of all shapes and sizes, trade associations, professional societies, foundations, and certification bodies. And effectively, our company serves as the headquarters for our client organization. So somebody on our staff serves as CEO or executive director of the client. And then within our company, they're supported by all the other resource team members to execute day-to-day operations and execute the strategic plans that the board of directors of our clients set forth.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for giving us that overview. Well, we really wanted to have you in here today because you have so many connections with FSU and the Jim Moran organization, Jim Moran Institute. You were part of the Jim Moran Institute Small Business Executive Program. You've been part of the peer-to-peer. You are an alumni of FSU and all sorts of great stuff. But before we jump into that, I'd love to hear just a little bit about your FSU education, just your time here, people that you connected with that were important in your journey.
Yeah, I mean, I got to FSU. A lot of people said, did you move to Tallahassee to come to FSU? And the answer is no for me. But I had friends that actually, from North Carolina, is where I grew up. And two of my best friends came to FSU to get their PhD in sociology. And at the time, I was at Georgia Tech in public policy graduate school there. So on weekends, I would come down and visit them. Ended up moving to Tallahassee. They left. And over the course of time, certainly, as many people did growing up, watching Bobby Bowden, I certainly watched the Seminoles growing up. And it was really cool to be here. And so over the course of time, when the Masters in Applied American Politics policy program opened up, I was in that first class and signed up right out of the get-go when it opened. And that was my first educational foray to FSU, other than my friends that I visited them when they were here. And then after a course of time, I did another graduate certificate at FSU in the U.S. Intelligence Studies, which was during COVID. I stopped traveling like most people did and had a little bit of extra time on my hands. And I didn't even know FSU had that program. And something I always wanted to kind of get involved in, like certainly staying abreast of key issues, the global things that impact us all. And so I did that during 2020 and finished that up in 2022.
Very nice, very nice. So you're in an industry that most people don't know a lot about. Could you tell us a little bit about the industry and how did you get interested in it? Sure. And what led you to start a company in that industry?
Yeah, I'll kind of start, I guess, at where I start every conversation, because anybody, especially all of our team members, they've been with us 20 years, they can't explain to their parents still what they do. But I always try to equate to what something that is somebody's passionate about. So, if it's an academic issue or sports or whatever it may be, or their profession, clearly. So, I mean, I'll use one, just most people can get their arms around Florida Institute of CPAs. So that's obviously the professional organization to represent CPAs here in Florida, one of many. We have about 650 associations in Florida. But nationally, there's thousands of associations. And so those associations that represent an industry or a trade or a profession, they have an advocacy group effectively that represents their interest. And so, that's the space we're in, but we're kind of more of a niche in the context that many associations will have what we call captive staff, which means direct employees that manage their day-to-day operations. But an association management company model is we do exactly what any other staff are doing. We just do it for more than one group. So associations will contract with the company to manage their day-to-day operations, and that's what we do. And we do it for state, regional, and national size groups. Majority of our clients now are national in scope. And again, we are the headquarters, so all of those clients that we manage are headquartered here.
Okay.
And we manage all their operations out of Tallahassee. And so we're putting meetings, as example, meetings around the country, so North America, Canada, Puerto Rico, Latin America in some cases. Once in a while, we'll do stuff in Europe and Asia too, smaller meetings. So it's kind of a neat niche. There's about, I'd say in Florida, just as that's where we are today, we have about 35 companies like mine in Florida, but we're the largest. And even in our national marketplace, we're considered a large company, even though we have 42 employees.
Okay.
So it is a kind of a mom and pop for most companies,
Right.
1 to 10 employees, but the biggest company in the market is about 1,000 employees.
Oh, wow.
So, all shapes and sizes, but I fell into it. I knew what associations were. And when I moved to Tallahassee originally, I was going to apply for a lobbying job. So that obviously there's plenty of opportunity to do that, or look at legislative staff. And I was in an interview actually, and somebody said, you know what? Because I had worked in D.C. for a little while, and they saw my resume and they said, there's a person here in Tallahassee that worked where you worked 15 years ago. You should call him. And he happened to own an association management company.
Okay.
His name is Bob Harris. He's still here in Tallahassee and is now a consultant, doesn't have a company anymore. But so I called him up and, said, he saw where I worked and he hired me on the spot, and that's where I got my start. So it was, a great privilege to be able to do that and learn from him. And once he transitioned out, I had an opportunity to start my own and did that, and started with one client, and that client's still with us, and then we just built from there.
No, that's super interesting. I appreciate you sharing that. And it's definitely one of these kind of industries that obviously is really necessary and needed, but probably not a lot of people think about it that way. So thank you for sharing that. So let's talk a little bit. You and I served on the Greater Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce board. You've done 2 terms, 6 years?
I was, I think, 6 total. Yeah. And
Okay.
then I've chaired a membership committee for a while, and then was involved in business advocacy, and still am involved in that. But yeah, I think of 6 total years on the board, including some time on the executive committee.
Great. You want to tell us a little bit about just your involvement with the chamber and how that has been a benefit to your business?
Yeah, for me, the Chamber of Commerce, we're, a lot of people join chambers of commerce for different reasons. For me, it's part of it's just giving back, and it's our community, and we're a business here. We employ people here. We're obviously, quality of life and education for our team members and their families is important. So part of it for us is just community give back, and certainly, that entails everything in terms of what public policy issues are happening here locally that impact us not only as business but just as citizens. And so I was drawn to the chamber just for that, because we really don't, to be frank, we don't draw a lot of business from the chamber connections, and that wasn't our intent. Many people do, and obviously that's good for them. But for us, it's more about community involvement and being kind of having a seat at the table and being part of the conversation. And I continue to that today. And so I think for me, going back to the Jim Moran Institute, I would have never known about JMI if not for my chamber connections. At that time, Michael Campbell was running the program, and so I got, just through the chamber, met Mike and got involved in the first CEO peer groups, which is still in existence today, and then ultimately went through the JMI Small Business Executive Program in 2015. But I may not have known, certainly would not have known at the beginning at the JMI launched here. And certainly the brand of JMI is very strong here in Tallahassee, and obviously going statewide. So. But I got early into it, and it's been great. And if not for the chamber, I may not have known about it for another 3-4 years.
No, that's fantastic. Since we're talking a little bit about JMI, the Jim Moran Institute, and you went to the Small Business Executive Program, you said back in 2015 you're a graduate. How did that help you in developing your business? And let's couple that with the peer-to-peer network as well.
Yeah, I'll start with the executive program, certainly. It was, we had a pretty good class size, and, a couple of people in that class I still keep in contact with. But the topics, obviously the faculty have changed over the years, but I think one constant's been Doug Tatum. Yeah. And,
good
again,
friend.
I would have never known about Doug. He's a treasure, obviously, in this community. And, not only for me personally as a business owner, I've worked with him, but also from our clients. We've retained Doug and his company in a myriad of ways with M&A type activities and research and just different training exercises. And again, never would have known about Doug if not for that program. And that alone was, given it as a free program and you get in contact with somebody like that, it's just like a treasure. So, the peer group, again, still friends with many of those folks. I'm not involved in the peer group now just because I kind of had to make choices about different time allocations, if you will, but I still keep in contact with a number of the folks that were at the beginning when I launched with that program, and those friendships and the types of things you get in that peer group, just obviously in a kind of confidential, free,
Right.
safe zone, if you will. You can just kind of let it all out and say, here's what the deal is, and learn from people who've been there, done that, and get just candid feedback. And so I would say, for me, like many others, just countless scenarios where I said, okay, here's a what if, this is real life, this is what I'm facing, and having a very group that you can trust to have that conversation and say, okay, what would you do or how did you do it is even better. And that saved, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and in some cases, thousands of dollars in savings. I said, okay, I'm going to try it this way because this is a proven way to approach this. So it's been great.
Yeah, I tell people to, especially the students that I work with who are entrepreneurs, and I'm like, go out and network and find mentors and coaches. It may cost a little bit of money in the beginning. It'll definitely cost you time, but it's going to probably ultimately through the arc of your career, it's going to save you a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of agony, because there's a lot of people who've gone down the road and have done that. And I found, especially in Tallahassee, I think Tallahassee's such an amazing business community that people really help each other. I'm from Los Angeles and was really involved in the business community there, but just about every door is closed. But here in Tallahassee, I tell people, I honestly, like, not because of who I am, but just because of the culture here in Tallahassee, that I feel like so many doors are open that I literally could go have a cup of coffee with like Steve Evans or Sue Dick or Jay Revel or yourself. And I feel like if, obviously within their schedule and everything, but I think that there's this spirit of openness. Tell us a little bit about, because obviously you've been part of the chamber, you've been part of JMI, the FSU community, you're a FSU booster. So you have very, very deep roots in this community. You have deep roots with your business in this community. Could you unpack a little bit about how this community environment, and I guess if you agree with me, has been important in your development as a person and in the growth of your business?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to start a little bit going back to the early 90s. So after I got an undergrad, I went to Georgia Tech and they opened a public policy school there, and that was the first class. And I said, yeah, that's where I wanted to go. I had been in D.C. for a little while, and at one point in time, I said, I'm going to be in D.C. I'm going to be there for my career, and I'm not obviously there. And then Atlanta, I got to Atlanta in the early 90s, and it was obviously a big community and growing at that time. But again, for me, it was like, where can you really make an impact? And when you come to a community like Tallahassee and our size, it's just, I think, honestly, like you said, if you knock, people will let you in, but you've got to be, take the first step. But it's a very welcoming community. And I think, I've talked to a lot of people who obviously the boomerangs, if you will, that went to Atlanta, went to Chicago, and then have come back.
Right.
So for me, I just stayed. I said, I'm committed to being here. I could be somewhere else and grow this company, but this is a great place to live, grow a company, and then people love the quality of life. And so just wanted to be a part of that. And so, like I said, going back to the chamber, that gave me the opportunity to meet a lot of different people. So pretty much everything for me, quite frankly, networking-wise, where I said, okay, I want to be engaged or provide value, it's kind of all came through either the chamber, JMI, or both. So been involved in Big Bend Hospice for a number of years, on the airport board now, and so those are Truist Bank, not to mention commercial banks, but Truist is the bank I go with.
Right.
But those types of connections, if you will, all were made just through the community, and I say community because that's what it is, and that is the beauty of Tallahassee. That there's so many people that are trying to be engaged and make things better for all of us. And a lot of big places, like you said, it's hard to find that. It's just either because it's so massive or just whatever, and things that are built into the system and structure don't allow for that. But here you can, and there's so many ways to do it, and I think that's great, especially for young people. I think that's why I think we do see more people that are staying here after they graduate and trying to make a career here and stay here. So I think that's wonderful.
Nice. So I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here and ask you a hard question based on, you said that there's a lot of people at Boomerang. And I think a lot of people boomerang because they leave Tallahassee thinking, oh, I have to go to Atlanta or a Washington, D.C. or an L.A. or a New York to be successful. Now looking back on your career, and you made the choice to make your career, your life here in Tallahassee. Strictly speaking, your business, do you think your business would have been better off if you were in a Washington, D.C. or one of these larger markets? Or do you think you were able to achieve what you really wanted to set out to do?
It's a good question. I mean, our competitors, just to be frank, so we have 35 companies in Florida that do what we do, but we really don't compete against them in the context of if associations are looking for services from a company like ours. Everybody's kind of got a niche, and the ones in Florida we just don't compete with. So we actually are, when we are competing with somebody, we're competing with Chicago and D.C. And little Tallahassee, here we are. And but I think that's really neat, and I'll share it just on the corporate standpoint, but I'll come back to the culture of our company too. So from a client standpoint, if I've got a national association that's saying, hey, we're out for business, if you will, and we're looking at different companies that could manage our operations, if I get in the mix with a company from Chicago or DC for that matter, their cost of operations are clearly higher than we are. Right. Our labor costs might be, quite frankly, pretty the same, because I try to make sure we're paying our people to recruit and retain the right people. Yeah. But the operating costs probably clearly have a different component in terms of cost. So right out of the gate, we kind of have an advantage where we're saying, okay, these types of ancillary things in terms of your operating expenses are going to be less, but you're still getting the same great talent, and obviously you're in a growing, large state, and things of that nature. And to be frank, pretty much every association out there wants to come to Florida for their annual conferences or a board meeting. We know this market. And so, this being in Tallahassee, even the state associations we manage, which we have a number of Florida state associations we manage, but our majority of our clients now are national. Again, having this Florida presence is big for us, and the connection to Latin America, those types of things, emerging markets, that's been great for us. So I think it's been a great strategic position for us. And again, on the culture side for our staff, I think for us, we're able to do things we just probably couldn't do as well or, certainly cost effective as we can in this kind of market, if we were in another big market. And I kind of like being here, kind of the big fish in, small pond, if you will. Yeah. I like that. And it's worked well for us. It's kind of part of our brand. And, our staff like being here, obviously. And
the schools are great.
Have remote staff, but a lot of our FSU graduates are our staff, or the Florida college system in general, and they like Tallahassee. So for us, I like being here because it is a community, and if not to take away from a bigger market, it's just it's a different feel. And for us, we like what we have here in Tallahassee, and we looked at, quite frankly, acquiring other companies in different markets or expanding and having different office locations, but we're like, we don't need it. Especially remote staff, you don't need to do that. And having this be our cornerstone has been really good for us.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and sorry for putting you on the spot a little bit, but you just, it triggered, not triggered, but that you saying the boomerang, I'm like, that happens a lot. People leave, they think, oh, I have to go here, and then they come back because the quality of life is so good.
Yeah. And then, in many respects, you want people to do that, so they appreciate when they do come back, that they really understand, oh, this is not as bad as I thought it was. It's actually very, very good. And, that's, and everybody needs to go through that at times. But I just find more and more people are saying, I don't need to leave and go figure that out. I appreciate what I have, and I know the value of it now.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I want to switch to kind of you personally and your personal development. We touched a little bit about the associations and your degrees and stuff, but you have some accolades, definitely, that you've probably the one that jumps out is very prestigious is you've been part of the Seminole 100 three times, and that's very impressive. Tell us a little bit about different times that you've been recognized and what that means to you.
I started the company by myself, so in a guest bedroom, and it was a basset hound at the floor of my feet, and one client, and that like a lot of businesses that start that way. But I knew, especially in our business, it's a people business. We're managing associations, but our clients at the end of the day are the boards of directors of the associations. That's effectively who chooses to hire us and keep us. And so it's a people business. So we're only as good as our people too, because we're managing their operations. So I knew to build a company that was going to be sustainable, we had to have good people and kind of a good culture. And part of that's obviously financial growth, but part of it's culture. And so, again, going through JMI, the stuff gets reinforced. You don't grow, you die, that kind of stuff. And Doug Tatum, and going through his No Man's Land, kind of that stuff, all that stuff stuck with me as we kind of did the trial and error, like what do we want to be, what do we want to look like, and how do we get there? So we're kind of what I call a slow but steady growth. Yeah. We're never going to try to get 1,000% growth, if you will. So we like long-term predictable growth. So it's one, I was honored to be obviously on that Seminole 100 list for a few years. We weren't number one, but we're on the list, and that was a big deal for our staff. And we share that with our clients too. I think ancillary for us is something we really worked hard on. There's many businesses you go through trial and error, and we had, I would say, a rough patch in the early 2000s because we did have some very significant growth with some new clients that came on board. And so we, one fell swoop with one particular client, we had to hire 11 people right out of the gate just to take that new client on. And that rubber band kind of stretched, if you will. Yeah. And so for us, we got into a position, okay, how do we want to do this? How do we manage this, and what kind of culture we want to have? And so it set us on a path, kind of using 5 dysfunctions of a team. We actually, had a couple here, again, FSU tie back. Tom Lawn, who was a professor here at FSU at the time and had a company called Catch Your Limit Consulting, and Melissa Lawn, who's now his wife. We brought them in to help us kind of say, okay, this is where we are. We're at a fork in the road. Where do we want to go? And so we set out, kind of a cultural exploration, if you will. And so some people, that seats on the bus, that find the right seats on the bus. Some people didn't stay on the bus, right? But the people who did stay on the bus got us to where we are today. And so I've been very proud that including this year, this is our 12th time being ranked on the best company to work for. Oh, that's fantastic. With Florida Trend magazine in the small business category.
Congratulations! That says a lot about you and your company.
Yeah, but for me, it's as we built that, and you learn it the hard way. But it's just like the people who are with you day in and day out, you're with them more than your families in many cases. You want to be able to work together. You want to be able to respect each other and grow together. And so, once we figure that out, like, okay, we're all in this together and we want to go to the same place. Let's do it together. And that really changed our culture. And, something there's never a finish line. You just keep going and, and adapting and pivoting to keep that going in the same direction that you want to go.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. Thinking about entrepreneurship, and obviously JMI is connected with JMC, Jim Moran College, and we have hundreds of aspiring entrepreneurs and they listen to this program. What kind of advice would you give a starting entrepreneur, and what are some of the, traits that you think successful entrepreneurs have in common?
Sure. I'll kind of hit it from a couple different angles.
Okay.
Part of it's the philosophical part, or the kind of, what I wish I've known. Yeah. So don't sweat the small stuff. Don't take it personal. Be willing to obviously take calculated risk. Be hungry, and be passionate. Whatever it is you want to do, be passionate. If you don't have the passion, it's not going to work. But I think the other piece, certainly going back in time, as you learn as you go, and certainly more seasoned now, I know what you need. But, do your homework and kind of understand, based on what you're trying to do or what you're trying to launch in terms of your concept, whether it's a product or a service, who are the resource partners that you need? Build your toolkit, if you will. So have a good banker, have a good financial planner, a good attorney, a good CPA. And again, you can get those tools, if you will, through engaging through certainly the alumni network here at FSU, get involved with the local chamber. Obviously, our Tallahassee Chamber has a young professional network that people can tap into. And so, the fact that you can have that at the ready-made, you just have to ask and reach out, go through the FSU mentor program, those types of things that are all available to you. Use the tools that are available. Don't try to do everything yourself. Because you don't have to. And people who have been there, done that, that are willing to help you, let them do that, and to take what they can share with you and provide you, whether it's time, money, or both, if you will, to help you along your journey. Take it, and that's what I would kind of share with people.
Well, fantastic. Now I'm going to have it drilled down to something personal. If you could go back and tell yourself, you could tell Bennett the day before you started your company, you just said all of these things, and you only can say one thing to young Bennett who's ready to go and take the leap into being a business owner. What's the one thing you would have told yourself?
Sure. I mean, I learned it after, along the way, but I know a number of your folks that you've interviewed have talked about the E-Myth and Michael Gerber and that kind of stuff. And so, I mean, most people start a business because they have a passion for what they're doing, whether it's a product or a service. There's a passion behind that. And, there's an instinct like you've got to do it all yourself. And so I think recognizing that, obviously, when financial resources are available for you to kind of broaden out and bring in people to help you, do it. Don't wait till you're at the burnout stage. Don't feel like you have to do it all yourself. Do that as early as you can, because you can grow much faster. Your life will be a little less stressful.
Right.
And you'll still be able to kind of enjoy your passion, but really enjoy it, because you're not just pulling your hair out and doing 24/7 work weeks, that kind of thing when you're starting out. And so I think that's the biggest thing is, work on your business, not just in the business, that mantra.
Yep.
And the only way you can do that is obviously bringing in, whether it's, outsource partners or in-house people that can help you along the way, and doing that early, as early as you can.
Fantastic. Well, Bennett, I really appreciate you coming in and sharing about your journey and your story and your advice to the students and just your insight. I really love learning about your company and what you did.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been an honor. Thank you, Mark.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset, powered by the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship. If you like this episode, please do us a favor and drop us a like, and definitely hit that subscribe button so you never miss another amazing episode. And hey, drop us a comment. We always read them and we always respond. We will see you next time.